Go ahead and mute, if you're not already muted. Go ahead and mute yourselves, and you can, if you'd like to disable video, you can do that as well. So we've got as just on the speakers. I'm Amy Bryan with the Columbus, Georgia Chamber of Commerce, and we're thrilled that you're here today. This is an opportunity for us to invite our members to learn more about the CARES Act dollars and what the city is doing to distribute these to organizations around town. And we as an organization also just want to let you know that as you're navigating through this pandemic, and as we're all kind of learning the new way of doing business, that the chamber is here for you to support you if we can. So I want to thank the city. I want to thank the mayor and deputy city manager, Lisa Goodwin, for being here with us today to welcome you all. But I also want to thank them for making this opportunity available. There are a lot of communities where these dollars were distributed and they're using them in other ways. So the fact that the mayor's office and the city manager's office is thinking about our small businesses, our nonprofits, our art agencies, it's incredible. It's an incredible opportunity for us as a community. And again, we just want to thank them for being proactive and being pro-business in Columbus, Georgia. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Mayor Henderson to make a few remarks.
Thank you, Amy. First, let me just tell you, I appreciate so much what the Chamber is doing to try to help get the word out, because that's the most critical piece. And I know you'll hear from Marquette in a few moments about how significantly important that is, that we try to let as many people as possible know that this opportunity exists. Yeah, and I'll tell you, and I'm just so proud of Columbus, Georgia. You know, we're in the middle of a medical emergency that has been going on now for 7 or 8 months locally. It's been going on around the globe for much longer than that. And it is a medical emergency, but it also carries with it so many other ancillary challenges that have been created. I mean, there's emotional anxiety. A lot of folks, I mean, things are different. Our world is different, and we're having to relate to each other differently. And that puts a lot of stress on people. We've also seen mental health issues exacerbated by the fact that the pressure from having to try to live a different way has created. And it's also created a an incredible financial challenge for so many people. It's created financial challenges for the individuals who've lost their jobs. It's created financial challenges for small businesses, certainly, that are struggling to try to find a way to build that bridge from the momentum they had going in January and February to where we are now, and to where we know we're going to all get eventually, and that is on the other side of this pandemic. I got to give credit to the agencies that we have worked with. Our city manager, Isaiah Hughley's done an incredible job. He's got such a strong voice through the Georgia Municipal Association. And I've been working with the governor's office, as well as GMA and ACCG, the Association of County Commissioners of Georgia. These two groups have come together to encourage the governor's office to kind of pass through some of the CARES funding. Initially in the legislation, there was a portion that said you could pass through up to 45% to local governments. Well, that's a bunch of money. But our governor decided that he was going to allow some of that money to pass through, to be put to work, kind of reimbursing for some issues that popped up during COVID-19 pandemic and that were not covered through other organizations. So the good news is we got the money. They're passing it through. The challenge within that good news is that we had a very, very short time frame within the act. Particularly with the first wave. There's going to be 3 waves, and I would get into all that, but then Marquette would have to spend most of her time correcting everything that I said wrong. So, but I will tell you that the A team that we put together and the city manager put together, headed up by Deputy City Manager Lisa Goodwin in working with Deputy City Manager Pam Hodge and our Finance Director Angelica Alexander. They've done an awesome job in trying to make sure that we understand where all these opportunities lie. We recognized early on that we had to have somebody who knew the landscape, somebody that knew marketing and knew mass communications. And we couldn't have picked a better partner in media marketing and more, and Marquette McKnight and her team. I know it's going to be a challenge for us to try to get all this money where it needs to be, but it's critical that we use it, because it's one of those deals, you don't use it, you lose it. So if we don't find ways, and we don't find individuals who have been looking for an opportunity to try to put another plank in that bridge, getting them to the other side of this, then we're going to end up turning money back in. That's something we don't want to do. So I just want to thank again the Chamber. I want to thank all the citizens of Columbus for the way that they have been committed to helping their neighbors out during this pandemic. And I want to tell you too that I'm just so proud of your consolidated government. The leadership that we have in place has just been nothing short of awesome. And I want to turn it over to one of those awesome individuals right now, Deputy City Manager Lisa Goodwin.
Thank you so much, Mayor. I appreciate that. And also, Amy, thank you for pulling all this together on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce. We are delighted to be able to share with you the city's response regarding the CARES Act program with you. And yes, Columbus's allocation that we will receive is up to $34 million. Let me first of all thank again our City Council and the Mayor for his unwavering leadership. We couldn't be where we are today without that. I also want to thank our CCG frontline employees and those on the front line in the private sector as well. You know, we're a strong community working hand in hand in order to get through these tough times. As the Mayor has indicated, we do have an internal team that we're working with that includes Deputy City Manager Pam Hodge and our Finance Director Angelica Alexander, along with myself, who are working this program and this process continuously on a daily basis with our partners. And because we knew that this task was much greater than either of us had the individual time to devote to based on this tight timeline, we do what we do best, and that's to create public-private partnerships. It was important to the city manager that we search for a partner that we knew had the capacity and the respect of the community and could take this program and run with it as we continue to collaborate. Doing it Columbus, Georgia kind of way, if you will. And you'll hear more about that team shortly. Yes, we did assure the Mayor and the Council that we intend to go after every dime that was allocated to our community, realizing that this allocation would assist so many in our community with reimbursed eligible expenses due to COVID. So just for the benefit of those on the call, the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act was passed by Congress and signed into law on March the 27th. Again, this was over $2 trillion in economic relief that was intended to protect the American people from public health and economic impacts of COVID-19. The phase one allocation that the city received, and again, phase one was just over $10 million, $10,248,054. Now, we have received 30% of that allocation. The $10 million is 30% of our total, and we've received just over $3 million, which was 30% of that initial allocation for phase one. That was received on August the 3rd, and which means all of that money for phase one must be expended and submitted by September the 1st. That's that tight schedule that we're on, and that's why it was so important for us to get a partner that can make some things happen for us. And so with that, Now, I'd like to provide you with the details of the CARES Act program and process. I want to just introduce, certainly don't have to introduce, but bring on our partner, Media, Marketing, and More, to give you more of the details, and that's Marquette McKnight and her team. Thank you, Marquette.
Lisa, thank you. And thank you too to Mayor Skip for your trust in us in managing this project, and especially to the Chamber for today's webinar, which we hope will bring you some really great information and make it easy for you to fill out your application to get your, help us get all the dollars. I am going to jump right into the process and what we're going to be doing today. I'm going to be giving you an overview, eligible organizations and eligible expenses. And then I'm going to turn it over to Andy Luker, who works with our team, and he's going to actually lead you through the application process. As Lisa noted, we are in the process of gathering applications. And I'll keep saying this is a key item that you need to be aware of. We are talking about less than 1 week. We opened the application process last Monday. It closes next Monday, August 24th at 5 p.m. So even though, and because of those dates that Lisa mentioned, it's really critical that we have a tight deadline, but that we turn it around in that amount of time. So if you want in on this grant program, you're going to have to submit to that deadline of next Monday. And because we all learn in different ways, I'm the kind of person who learns when I'm given examples of what I'm referring to. But of course, I will, excuse me, I will definitely be not allowing, I mean, I will use examples and I will change the names to protect the innocent amongst us. I won't be actually using, I'll be using actual examples from the applications we've received so far, but won't be referring to them by name. We would like to ask you, if you would, to share this information with your colleagues, with your peers, with your other organizations, business, nonprofits, etc. It is really important that we get the word out about this. We will be doing a series of Zoom meetings the rest of this week, but we are really counting on everybody who is applying or hearing about this program to help us spread that information as well. And we'd appreciate it if you would share this information. As Amy noted, this is being recorded, and so you can play it back at any time, and you can actually share this link of the recording with anybody that you'd like to. So the big things to remember in the actual application process is to remember that this is the reimbursement program for COVID necessary related expenditures, which are not reimbursed by any other source. Unlike other grant programs where you fill out a grant application about a program that you're going to do, this is not that, and it has no evaluative or narrative part of it. These are expenses that you have already incurred, and they are expenses that you have incurred due to COVID. So if it's something that you would normally have that expenditure, it's not a COVID related expense. And if you haven't spent the money yet, it's not going to be reimbursed because it's not an expense already. So first up is the website, and that's where you need to go. It is, Andy's going to bring up this slide for me, columbusga.gov/ColumbusCares. That is our website. You can read the review, the overview of that. You can look at that for, I'm sorry, I have lost my own notes here. You can look at that and get all the information that you need to get for the website, and what's the overview and the FAQs are all there. So first off, I'd like to talk about what organizations are eligible. When I refer to organizations for the purpose of this workshop, I am referring to all the entities that are available. that are eligible to I'm sorry, y'all. I'm having a little technical problem myself with, okay. When I refer to organizations, I'm referring to all businesses, nonprofits, medical, healthcare, arts organizations, churches with mission work. If it's specific to a particular organization, I'll denote that this is for that entity only. So what organizations are eligible? Nonprofit organizations, including 501c3, which is pretty much every public charity, and 501c6s, which includes churches. Churches are related to this 501c3, 501c6 entity for their mission-oriented programs. We are getting in lots of applications from churches, but I will say the one caveat on this is that this is not about opening churches back up. This is what many churches do in their outreach, what they do as in essence a nonprofit. It's what they do to help the homeless, to help with food assistance, those kinds of things that are sort of mission oriented. It is not about opening churches necessarily back up or online. That's not the intention of this particular funding. Businesses that are included have to be locally owned businesses that are not publicly traded companies, companies that are headquartered here in Columbus, businesses with 100 or less employees. The business must be located in Muskogee County and have been in operation since December 31st, 2019. And the businesses have to be current on all local taxes and have a current Muskogee County business license. The intent of that, and we keep coming back to that about the intent of this funding, is for businesses, small businesses that are locally owned here in Muskogee County. And so this is not for the large organizations, the large businesses in our community that have other sources of funding or that are better able to weather this. This is truly meant for the small business people. It also includes medical, healthcare, and senior care, and that includes hospitals, clinics, surgery centers, rehab facilities, laboratories, senior care facilities, physician practices, and that includes dental, rehab, mental health, any kind of healthcare that you can imagine. And so those are the entities, and in those nonprofits, that includes all the mission entities, all the things that do good things to help people in our community, as well as arts organizations. And by the way, if y'all want to ask any questions, you can certainly do that in the chat function. I think Amy is going to come in at the end and take some questions if we have time. So one of the things that we've been seeing right now, most of the applications that have come in are eligible businesses. Most. We had some fairly large companies apply, but we told them that their application was flagged because they were in essence more than 100 employees, or they weren't based in Columbus. And so we deemed them ineligible. But the trickiest part is coming up on the eligible expenses. Again, this is all on the website in great detail. But the biggest eligible expenses, I'm going to highlight these in a very broad manner. Personal protective equipment, anything that you have purchased for your employees, for your residents, for your patients, for customer safety. To include things like masks, gloves, protective glasses, goggles, gowns, aprons, face shields, hand sanitizers, thermometers, disinfecting wipes, anything that you are using that's a physical thing to protect your employees, residents, patients, and or customers. Also, anything that has to do with sanitizing, whether that's an outside contractor or whether you used in-house people and provided them with supplies. If you've had to clean something, if you've had to, any cleaning supplies that you've used, any kind of sanitizing company that you've used to do that, you can include that in the as an eligible expenses. One of the large things that is covered under this is actually construction, reconstruction, renovation, or installation of facilities and site improvements due to COVID-19 testing and or treatment. Obviously, this applies more to the medical and healthcare field. But if you had to construct or modify a facility for testing, diagnosis, or treatment, or rehab a facility, or even construct a facility or make major renovations, as in dividing up rooms or quarantining patients that are undergoing treatments, anything that you've had to do in that realm is eligible. If in private businesses, in small businesses, if you've had, and retail organizations, if you've had to rehabilitate, retrofit, or renovate your office to provide for social distancing and safety measures as it applies to COVID-19. We had one restaurant group that had closed down, was going to close down for renovation. And this was back in January. They were not going to actually close for the renovation. They were going to try to do it while they continued to do business, but then decided shortly later in March that they might as well close down and do their renovation. The paint on the walls that they paid for is not an eligible expense, but the plexiglass spacing that they had to put in at their bar and at certain tables and in their restroom facilities, if it was related to safety and social distancing measures because of COVID-19, especially HVAC systems and or filters, signage, including floor decals, tape, directional or informational signs, all those things are eligible. I'm not going to go into a whole lot of the detail of the medical and health expenses, but just do remember that under medical health expenses, there's a whole list on the website, and it's almost anything that you had to do that was related to COVID expenses. And we had a question this weekend from a dentist who said he was actually charging his patients for the increase in masks, shields, et cetera, that they were having to use. And I told him what he could do is the eligible expense. Obviously, he's recouping some of his costs from patients. That's a reimbursement. So all those expenses won't be covered. But if you spent $50,000 in safety equipment in PPE, then, but you're only going to recoup, you've only recouped 40,000 of it, then the difference in that is eligible. Technology expenses are another big area, and those are technology expenses to improve telework capabilities for employees to enable compliance with COVID-19 precautions or for virtual learning and education. But what we're talking about here is for businesses and for nonprofits who had to close down, and you had to buy computers or tablets, PDAs, hotspots, high-speed internet capabilities, firewalls, software, VPN, et cetera. Anything that you had to do to be able to have your employees telework, and that's for any entity, any organization included, that's completely permissible. This technology expense does not cover things like a case for your laptop or office equipment to set up your home office. This has to do with technology and the things that are specifically associated with technology. If you are one of the entities that's bought software, there's one applicant who had to, a nonprofit who did case management of assistance for people. That was completely permissible to ask for reimbursement for the software. So we're glad to do that, but it's not software for something that you would normally use it for your regular everyday business. We are seeing some confusion in a lot of the small businesses that are applying for things that I call general assistance for the low to moderate income residents of Columbus. And we're seeing people trying to get reimbursement for rental assistance or food costs or utilities assistance or childcare. Those are not eligible for businesses' medical help. Those are aimed at nonprofits who assist low to moderate income populations, such as any of the nonprofits that we're familiar with that help people. So businesses can't get rental assistance. You can't. You would have that rental, your mortgage payment or your rental payment for your office or your nonprofit. You would have that anyway. You would have your utilities anyway. You would have your food costs anyway. But the things that are for emergency shelter services or general assistance for low to moderate income populations, such as shelter operations, hotel motel vouchers, rental assistant, case management, utilities assistant, food cost if you're an entity that helps people with food, and it even includes things like emergency health services and mental health services for nonprofits and or churches who are doing that kind of assistance. I do want to touch just briefly, and I'm going to turn this over to Andy quickly, on the ineligible expenditures. The ineligible expenditures are not for business interruption, revenue shortfalls, unrecovered income, lost revenue, or revenue replacement. And that includes if you have expenses for the nonprofits, expenses for a fundraising event that did not take place, lost revenue due to having to close your store, your business, or your restaurant. This does not include, those are not eligible expenses in this program. Other ineligible expenses are hotel, motel, travel, anything travel related is not included in this. Not any damages that are covered by insurance. It does not include any religious activities, hence the not for opening churches back up. It's not for any future expenses outside of the relief period of March 1 through December 30th, and that includes for all expenses. And people say, well, if the deadline is August 24th, how would we know if we have a December 30 expense? Many people are going ahead and buying, they're going ahead and purchasing all the masks that they're going to need and then paying for them. And that's a perfectly acceptable expense. You will have to have documentation of those expenses, but any expenses outside of that March 1 period to December 30 is not eligible. We had a group that made they were very smart and they could see this thing coming, and they bought tablets for all of their employees, but they bought them on February 15th. This is a federal guideline, March 1 through December 30th. So don't submit it, that line item in your application, because it's not covered if it's outside that relief period. No payroll or benefit expenses for employees, no hazard pay, nothing payroll. Can you assume on this? Any expenses that have been or will be reimbursed under any other federal, state, or local program. PPP didn't cover these kinds of expenses anyway, but if for example, if you had I'm just going to say PPP is not really a reimbursement. But if you were covered by insurance, or if for the nonprofits, if you were covered by specific donor funds that took care of one of your expenses, those are also not related. Neither can you apply for reimbursement if you, as a business or medical entity or nonprofit, donated something to somebody else. We had a business this morning who had donated a substantial supply of sanitation, masks, PPE stuff to a local school. That is not permissible expense. You can't ask for reimbursement of that. Likewise, you can't ask for any programs that in turn make grants to others, or general operating support, annual fundraising campaigns, or grants to individuals. I'm almost finished, but I want to touch base on something that Andy's going to go into detail on. It is our group that's working on this. We have a group of about 11 people who are working on this. We get your applications in. We send them to our finance review group, who looks over from a financial standpoint of what we have asked you to provide, and they document and deny or approve each line item of your expenses. The documentation that you have to provide, we have tried to make it not very cumbersome on you. Because we are talking about expenses, we do have to have 2 items of documentation for every expense that you list, and that is an invoice or receipt, and that shows to XYZ company that they provided you with 500 masks, and then we need to see a proof of payment, because your invoice or receipt is not a proof of payment, and a proof of payment is a canceled check and or a credit card or debit card, online statement, or actual statement that you're going to scan in and put in that document. If you do not have that documentation along with the other documentation that is required in your application, you will not be, that expense will not be eligible if you can't provide documentation for that. The financial review team is pretty strict about this because they have to be for us to get this grant to the city, which then gets it to the state. And so we have to have the documentation that's required. I realize this is a lot of, we don't think it's too cumbersome, but it is work for a small business person. But here's the key in getting your application in as early as you can. Andy and I spent the weekend responding to people at our email, which is columbuscares@columbusga.gov, and Andy's going to bring that up on the Zoom, on the screen. And we'll be glad to take your questions as long as we can. But we spent a lot of time this weekend talking to folks about what was covered. And how they needed to submit that documentation. Once we get into this weekend, I do not anticipate that we will have the time to be individually following up on every single application to ensure that you get in all of your information by Monday at 5. So please go ahead and try your best to get those applications and your documentation, support documentations in as quickly as you can so that we can get them reviewed and let you know if there's a problem and we need anything more. And so now I'm going to turn it over to Andy, who's going to lead us through this process and let you know exactly how he's going to walk you step by step through the entire process.
All right. Hey, everybody. I know we're getting some questions in the chat, and I know we're going to try and answer those. If we can get to them at the end, we'll try and answer. If we can type in some answers, we'll get to them as we go if we don't answer them. If not, please email questions again to columbuscares@columbusga.gov for us. But I'm going to take you through as for the online application. So I'm going to share a screen. So this is, if you've gone to the Columbus Cares website, you clicked on the online application, and we are now at the online application here. So I'm going to kind of go through just like you would be filling it out. I've already pre-filled out a bunch of stuff to try and save us some time. So we're going to go through. When you get to the very top, this is the application you'll come to. The first thing you're going to click is up at the top. You're going to say if you're a medical or healthcare, small business, or arts nonprofit in that, or if you're a community assistance nonprofit. So the three categories you'll pick. For my example today, we're going to use small business to just go through. So small business, please, this is pretty straightforward. If you're filling out any application for anything, if you'll fill out your business name, legal application, your mailing address, phone number, website, employee identification number. If you also put in right here, it'll ask if you're a 501c3, 501c6. If you say yes, it's going to require you to tell you the date of your certification down here. For a small business, if you say no, it's going to require a business license number. So I'm just going to put in some numbers to get through. Please fill in all the contact of your owner, your CEO, your president, filling in their information. If this is an employee you're filling it out, it's who's filling it out for the organization. If you're the same person, just put your name in again. Only put in the street address if different. Here, you will go through and click that you certify that you are in Muscogee County. You've been in operation, all the requirements. So you'll click to say, making sure that your public organization is not publicly traded, you're current on all taxes, you do not discriminate. Here's the first, and then so that's the easy part of the application. I will tell you that's the easiest part. We're going to get to now where I'm going to jump into, like Marquette said, required documentation and the Excel expense template. For everybody, you will need to upload a copy of your business license, a copy of your, if you're a business, but if you're a 501c3, you'll need to send your letter from the IRS proving that you're a 501c3. Your articles of incorporation or articles of organization, those come from the state. So you'll upload those. So those are the usually two first documents you'll need to find is a copy of your business license or your 501c3 or C6 certification, followed by your articles of incorporation for business, healthcare, medical. Nonprofits will not have this as well. Now, the part that we get the most questions about is here. So this is where you'll need your expense template with all supporting documentation. And we'll go through right now what that is. I've tried to provide here to explain what that is, but I'm gonna walk through it. So it's there. If you didn't download it on the CARES website, you can download it by clicking here. So when you download it, I'm gonna swap screens that I'm sharing. And now I'm gonna pull up the expense template for you to see. So I would recommend everybody downloading the expense template before you really start the application. If you just go to the website and get the expense template and start pulling your expenses together. So when you first open it up, it'll have an example page. We tried to help between creating this to let you know, here's kind of, places that you're gonna need to, these will be drop boxes for each one. This is where you'll actually put in, but this all at the bottom, I just want to say this is an example page. Please do not fill out your expense template on the example page. Down here at the bottom, I'm gonna draw real quick for you. Down here at the bottom, right there, you're gonna click on this template. So we're gonna go down, we're gonna click on the template, and this, we've also, when you open it up, you will have an example provided. You can delete the example. That's just, again, to try and help you see what you're putting in where. I have put in 2 examples, one that you'll find, because we're going to talk through 2 different ways you can do this today. It has to do with, again, Marquette mentioned for everything you're going to put in here for reimbursement, you need either an invoice or a receipt and a proof of payment. So invoice or receipt, proof of payment, which will be a canceled check, or it will be your bank statement or credit card statement, where we hope you'll go in and highlight what you put in there. So I'll give some examples of that and talk through those. So I did it 2 different ways because some people have reached out and said, hey, I have an invoice that has multiple things on it. And then sometimes people have an invoice or receipt with one line item on it. So if you have one line item, where the very first one here, expense number 1, and the only reason I left a blank here was just to help you to be able to see it on our call today. You don't need to leave blank spaces on the Excel template. But line item number 1 is if we went through, you put the person you bought it from, the date that you paid for it, your category will be here. Again, if you're a small business, you're always going to be economic support, and you're always going to be provisions of grants to small businesses. That's your only choices. I see some questions are coming in. I can't see what they are though while I'm presenting, so I'll try and get to those in a minute. So again,
Andy, I'm sorry. I'm answering these questions in the chat room. So
okay.
Y'all check back here. I'm not responding to a specific person. I'm just answering the questions as I see them. So.
Okay. So again, we're back on this one. So expense, you paid it, the person you paid to, you pick your category. So again, this one, since we're doing a small business, will be economic support. Provisions of grants to small businesses is your only choice. In the expense description justification, please be as descriptive as possible here. We understand that PPP and masks are for COVID-related expenses. So that's easy. Personal protective masks for employees due to COVID-19. Again, this is your chance that the reviewers, that they read why this is an unreimbursed expense for COVID-19. So for this one, for PPE masks for employees due to COVID-19, fiscal year 2020, a check number, invoice number that it'll give. This is if you had everything on one receipt for just masks. So you would put quantity, you bought 100 of them at $5. When you put that in, this will automatically, the total requested will automatically populate. So say if they were $4 actually, this changes. So you don't have to put anything in the total requested. It will automatically populate depending on what you put for quantity and unit cost. So, and then let's look at if you have a multiple example. So down here, provisions and grants to small business, the date you bought it, who you bought it from. This is if you have an invoice or receipt with more than one item on it. This I would put, you put mask and hand sanitizers for employees because this includes more than one. So I just did a real quick sample. You could put multiple things. If this was mask, hand sanitizers, thermometers, plexiglass, all of it was on one invoice, you can put that here. Say you paid it by credit card, just put credit card for us there because you're going to match that up with your credit card statement. This is line item, actually it's line item number 4 or number 3. It's line item number 3. So I put receipt number 3 there. So that it's a receipt, not an invoice. Give us the receipt number so they know where to look. But you put quantity of 1 and your total expense there. So that would be just one invoice. You're doing all those items, but be as descriptive as possible in that expense description justification. Just to give a couple examples, I'll do those here in a second. So that's the expense template. You're just filling out what that expense is, giving us as much detail as possible. Now, when you go to provide your proof of payment and your receipt or invoice, those things, we ask that when you upload those, that you number them to match this expense number column here on A. Because when the reviewers go to check to see that, hey, that you really did buy 100 masks at $4 a piece, you will have also uploaded that invoice or receipt and the proof of payment. Just please put, for example, I'm going to share another screen. It's going to take me 1 second to switch over. I'm going to share, there it is. So I created a folder with just some files in it. This has my Excel template. Here's my proof of payment for number 3 and like receipt number 3. You would also need to include a proof of payment for number 1, proof of payment for number 2. We ask that you put those in there so that when our reviewers are looking them over, they're able to quickly match the expense number with the receipt and the proof of payment. So that's a real basic version to get those in to show you kind of how we really would, the ease for our reviewers is if you can do it like that, where you have proof of payments. If for some reason you do have, sometimes I know if you're using a credit card statement, you will have a proof of payment that has multiple line items. So I'm sharing just a fake credit card statement. If you have a credit card statement that's a proof of payment for multiple items, please include those item numbers if you can in the title, but also please scan it, print it out, highlight what we need, and write what expense comes next to it. So like this 523 would be for expense number 3. And ultimately, the goal here again is to make it as easy as possible for the reviewers to be able to find the receipt for purchase or invoice and the proof of payment so that they can get it approved. That is the quickest way, is if we can have it done that easy so that our reviewers can go, okay, this is what they bought, why they bought it, and here's the proof of payment and the receipt or invoice. That's the quickest way possible, and it'll make it the easiest. I know there'll be some questions on that. We can answer any questions. Again, Columbus Cares at columbusga.gov. But I'm going to jump back over to the application and just go through the very last part of it. So we're back to the application. You've filled out your Excel template. You've now got all your documentation together, scanned, uploaded as PDF, JPEGs, however you want to get it uploaded. You'll click uploading all files that you'll need. And so it'll pull up, you can upload all the files that you're looking for there. When you upload the files, I'll just throw these in, doing this live. It should list all of your files here. So you should see everything that you need to upload right there. You can also delete something if you accidentally say you didn't want to load this. I can click that off. You should be able to delete things. Down here, you're gonna get ready to sign your form. On behalf of, this is one that you may miss. So it may tell you, if you've missed it, it's going to tell you that this field is acquired. So behalf of local, you will type your business or company in here. You certify that you've completed everything. Your name, your title, who's filling it out, the date you do it, your signature. If you're using a mouse, you just click and give us a signature in there. Verify that you're not a robot, and you'll click submit. And then that'll send you a thank you screen, and that email comes, then we get notified and your file is sent to us and we're reviewing it. And we try and have a front line where if it gets sent, I'm usually the first one who gets them. If I see that something's not in there, I'm going to email you and say, hey, I got your file, I'm missing this. So our goal is to try and be as proactive on the front end as possible, that if you send something and I don't see it there first, I'm going to ask you for it. And then but if everything's there, I'm going to send it to our reviewers. And our reviewers are going to go through and look through and find everything. If something is missing, our review team will send an email to myself or to one of our team, to myself or Marquette, and we'll be reaching out from the Columbus Cares email to you asking for something that a reviewer might need if they can't find some documentation. But again, the easiest way, I'll stress it as much as possible, is that if you can label all of your proof of purchases and your invoices and receipts to match that expense template, it's going to make life so much easier and quicker for our review team, where they can get through it very quickly. So at this point, I'm going to turn it back over to Marquette. I think she's there.
Yes.
I was going to say, I think we've covered it. I know you've been answering everybody's questions. If we didn't get I know Amy, actually, I think we're going to turn it over to Amy for, I guess we're going to do questions from Amy. I'll turn it back over to her at this point.
It looks like Marquette's done a great job going through and fielding and answering these questions. I do want to remind everyone, and we put it in the chat as well, to email columbuscares@columbusga.gov to submit questions. You know, one thing that Marquette and Andy both emphasized is go ahead and fill this out and get it submitted now, because you've got a team of folks working this. And if you're missing something, or if you overlooked something that you needed within your application, they're here right now to be a resource and to support you in this. If you send it, with less than 24 hours to the deadline, you may not have that same opportunity to get your questions answered, or for them to come back to you with maybe a missing document or something like that. So take advantage of the fact that there is this team to help guide you and walk you through this. These dollars are critical for our community, and you heard that the mayor emphasized this, and Ms. Goodwin as well, about how important it is for us to take advantage of these dollars too. So, even if you spent $200 on, hand sanitizer stations or things like that, apply, get the money. I mean, this process, they've done such an incredible job of trying to simplify it and make it as easy as possible. So every dollar counts, every dollar is important. So please, take the time to get this filled out. Somebody mentioned, Marquette, I'm looking at the chat right now, up to date on taxes. Does that mean all 2019 taxes submitted?
Your local tax, that should be local. I mean, I'm praying to God that the IRS gives us a whole lot of relief this year on our taxes, but this is local taxes. So your occupation taxes, except what you owe the local city government. What the city is trying to do is ensure that you are an upstanding, good customer of our city. And obviously that applies to mostly the businesses. I would like to, I've got a couple of private messages that are asking me, when will we get our check, basically. I know that's important. The city does not know, and I give all kudos to this, what I call the triumvirate of Lisa Goodwin and Angelica Alexander and Pam Hodge, who have done an amazing job in helping us set up the parameters. But once we submit all this information to the city, once the city then reviews it and submits it to the state, and then there's a state review process. So this is a lengthy process. We have not received any information from the state about when those reimbursement checks might come. And we also don't know if you are providing eligible expenses. We don't know that it's going to be 100% reimbursement, which is why I'm telling people, spend what you need to spend. Put it as much as you can in your eligible expenses that are eligible, but don't stockpile things. I mean, don't order a laptop for an employee who is at home telecommuting. If you don't, I mean, don't spend assuming that you will be reimbursed at 100%. Depending on how much we apply to for the state, our mission is to get all $34 million that we are due, and then hopefully to get more in the second and third phase of funding. But at this point, we are not anticipating that there will be another application process. So go ahead and get your expenses as of August 24th and get them in quickly as you can. And we're going to be, the reimbursement will be on a prorated scale. So in other words, somebody who works for, a large hospital in town is going to get 80%, as well as the small nonprofit with a budget of $150,000 a year. We're going to treat everybody as equitably as we can, and we'll all get the same prorated amount. Hopefully it'll be 100%, but we don't know that yet.
Good stuff. All right, let's remind everybody again. The website is columbusga.gov/Columbus Cares. If you have specific questions that you'd like to get answered, you can email the team at columbuscares@columbusga.gov. Marquette, Andy, Lisa, Mayor Henderson, thank you all so very much for this. This has been recorded, and it will be posted on the Chamber's YouTube channel. We'll also post it on our social media channels as well, in case you need to go back and get some information, or if you want to share it with people inside your organization or small business owners that you know that maybe couldn't log in today. But we want to make sure that everybody has access to this information and can dial in and get the details they need. But this is a great opportunity. Again, we are so appreciative to the city and to Marquette and her team for their hard work and quick turnaround. I mean, you guys have made this happen, and we certainly appreciate it. If there's anything the Chamber can do for you all as small business owners and nonprofits, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. You can find us at 706-327-1566, or our website is columbusgachamber.com. Again, we're here for you. We want to be a resource for all businesses, all organizations in town. So please do reach out if you're in need, if your business is in need. Marquette, Andy, thanks again. This was great information. And good luck to everybody with the application process. We want to get these dollars spent. So thank y'all so very much. And we hope everybody has a great, productive week.
Thank you.
Thank you.